Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tesla's first quarter 2022 Q&A webcast.
Sure. Some of my remarks will be redundant with Zach's, but it's maybe worth repeating. Q1 was once again a record quarter on many levels, reaching the highest deliveries, profit, and an operating margin of 19%. This was despite a lot of chip shortages, many logistics challenges, and an overall difficult quarter. So I'd really like to congratulate the Tesla team on achieving record profitability and output despite many difficult headwinds, and especially Tesla China team in our Shanghai factory. They really had significant challenges due to the COVID shutdowns, and nonetheless have been able to output a tremendous number of high quality vehicles, and we are already back up and running with the Shanghai factory. So as Zach said, we remain confident of 50% growth in vehicle production in 2022 versus 21. I think we actually have a reasonable shot at a 60% increase over last year. Obviously, we began production, as people know, with Giga Berlin and Giga Texas in the past few months. So we're two fantastic factories with great teams, and they are ramping rapidly. Now, with new factories, the initial ramp always looks small, but it grows exponentially. So, but I have very high confidence in the teams in both factories, and we expect to ramp those initially slowly, but like I said, growing exponentially, with them achieving high volume by the end of this year. We're also working on a new vehicle that I alluded to at the Giga Texas opening, which is a dedicated robotaxi that's highly optimized for autonomy, meaning it would not have steering wheel or pedals. And there are a number of other innovations around it that I think are quite exciting. But it's fundamentally optimized for it's trying to achieve the lowest fully considered cost per mile or cost per kilometer, accounting everything. And so it's, I think, going to be a very powerful product where we aspire to reach volume production of that in 2024. So I think that really will be a massive driver of Tesla's growth. And we remain on track to reach volume production of the Cybertruck next year. So it's basically, once again, I'd like to thank the Tesla employees for their hard work, but also I'd like to thank our suppliers who have really gone the extra mile. We have an amazing supplier group, and I just want to say a heartfelt thanks to the suppliers that have really worked day and night to ensure that Tesla is able to keep the factories running. And we're really at the early stage of our journey. We only crossed 1 million units in the past 12 months recently, and we aspire to head to 20 million units a year. So we're basically 5% along the way towards our goal. And but we are growing, very rapidly year over year, and remain confident of exceeding 50% annual growth for the foreseeable future, for basically several of the next years. I mean, and then there's of course Optimus, which I was surprised that people did not realize the magnitude of the Optimus robot program. The importance of Optimus will become apparent in the coming years. Those who are insightful or listen carefully will understand that Optimus ultimately will be worth more than the car business, worth more than FSD. That's my firm belief. And then of course insurance is growing well. We expect to address the part shortages that limited our progress with batteries and solar. So we expect batteries and solar to also grow well this year. And basically the future is very exciting. I've never been more optimistic or excited about Tesla's future than I am right now. With respect to full self-driving, of any technology development I've ever been involved in, I've never really seen more kind of false dawns or where it seems like we're going to break through, but we don't, as I've seen in full self-driving. And ultimately, what it comes down to is that to solve full self-driving, you actually have to solve real-world artificial intelligence, which nobody has solved. The whole road system is made for biological neural nets and eyes, and so actually, when you think about it, in order to solve full self-driving, we have to solve neural nets and cameras to a degree of a capability that is on par with and really exceeds humans. And I think we will achieve that this year. The best way to reach your own assessment is to join the Tesla Full Self-Driving Beta program, where we have over 100,000 people right now enrolled in that program, and we expect to broaden that significantly this year. That's my recommendation: is join the Full Self-Driving Beta program and experience it for yourself, and take note of the rate of improvement with every release. And we put out a new release roughly every 2 weeks. And you'll see a little bit of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but overall, the rate of improvement is incredibly quick. That's my recommendation for reaching your own assessment is literally try it. Yeah, we did lose a lot of important days of production, and there are sort of upstream supplier challenges where a lot of suppliers also lost many days of production. But our Tesla Shanghai, Giga Shanghai, is coming back with a vengeance. So I think, notwithstanding new issues that arise, I think we will see record output per week from Giga Shanghai this quarter. Albeit we are missing a couple of weeks. That means that most likely vehicle production in Q2 will be similar to Q1, maybe slightly lower, but it's also possible we may pull a rabbit out of the hat and be slightly higher. But it's to be roughly on par. But then Q3 and Q4 will be substantially higher. It seems likely that we'll be able to produce over 1.5 million cars this year. That's my best guess. And then Model 3, it's important for new factories to be focused on and have the least amount of complexity and variation, which is why Giga and Giga Texas are focused on the Model Y. It's from the point at which you have a factory complete and you're making a small number of units to the point where it's producing high quality vehicles in volume is sort of 9 to 12 months from start of production. So now hopefully we're getting better at that ramp, so maybe it's a little less, but to get to sort of the 5,000 a week level is typically taking us around 12 months from start of production. Actually, on the price increase front, I should mention that it may seem like maybe we're being unreasonable about increasing the prices of our vehicles, given that we had record profitability this quarter. But the wait list for our vehicles is quite long, and some of the vehicles that people will order, the wait list extends into next year. Our prices of vehicles ordered now are really anticipating supplier and logistics cost growth that we're aware of and believe will happen over the next 6 to 12 months. So that's why we have the price increases today, because a car ordered today will arrive in some cases a year from now. So we have a very long wait list, and we're obviously not demand limited. We are production limited by very much production limited. So from a Tesla standpoint, obviously, we would love to have federal legislation that allows direct sales in all states. But we have not seen willingness on the part of the Congress to enact such laws that would override state laws. So unfortunately, we have to fight it on a state-by-state basis. Drew, do you want to answer that 800-volt question? So I would just quantify that basically, like our estimate is that going from 400 to 800 volts might save $100. It's not really moving the needle.
And you're changing many things.
Yes, exactly.
From the charging infrastructure all the way through the entire vehicle system.
Yes.
To get maybe $100.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, in the US, you've got 110 volts household power or voltage, and then in your most parts of the world, you have like sort of 220. But really, it doesn't make that much of a difference, and appliances work pretty much as well, in say Europe as they do in the US.
Yeah.
So there's some the advantages are small, and the cost is high. Like so if you say like long term, like years from now, does it make sense to probably move to an 800-volt architecture? I said probably, but it really needs a very big vehicle volume to pay for all the costs of changing from 400 to 800 volts. And then do you want to continue with the induction? No. Sorry. No, ignore.
Sounds good.
I think maybe in a nutshell.
Sure.
I think probably it's fair to say that 4680 and structural pack will be competitive with the best alternatives later this year, and we think will exceed the best alternatives next year. This is something we think about quite a lot. It depends what extreme size means, but so certainly if you're looking at like say the $5, $10, $20 million, $5, 10, 20 million vehicle levels, you really have to analyze the sort of macroeconomic, just like what is the tonnage of lithium that you need, of nickel, of iron phosphate, of graphite, separators, electrolytes, electrolyte. You really need to think of like just macro tonnage. And we need to think about this for the world as a whole, because we want to figure out what are limiting factors for accelerating the advent of a sustainable energy future, and whatever those limiting factors are, Tesla will take action on those limiting factors. So right now we think mining and refining lithium it appears to be a limiting factor. And it certainly is responsible for quite a bit of cost growth in the cells. It's, I think, the single biggest cost growth item right now, certainly on a percentage basis. Although, just for those who don't totally know this, the actual content of lithium in a lithium-ion cell is maybe around 2 or 3% of the cell. So
yeah, 5 kgs a car.
Yeah, it's not 5 kilograms exactly. It's not. It's called a lithium-ion cell, but by far the most expensive and heaviest item in the cell is the cathode. So that's the nickel or the iron phosphate. So we're looking carefully at all of the raw materials and trying to figure out how we can accelerate the total amount of raw materials needed to transition the world to sustainability. And I think we've got, that we don't have enough time on this call to really go through all those details, but we are thinking about these things, and we think we'll have some exciting announcements in the months to come. So we're installing sort of melt furnaces for aluminum, like so for the Model Y that we build here at Giga Texas has both a front and a rear body casting. So we're casting almost 2/3 of the body, and then it's high pressure die cast aluminum, so we can take both scrap from the casting machine and the gating that comes out and put that back, just really toss that back into the aluminum melting pot, and then, as Lars was saying, also take any stampings and any other aluminum scrap and also throw that in the melting pot. And in fact, we've also figured out that we can use wheels from practically any car. Yeah. So we're going to be recycling the cast aluminum wheels from legacy gasoline cars as well, and throwing that in the melting pot for our aluminum cast body of Model Y, and and also we'll be moving to the sort of cast front and rear body, in all vehicles over time. Well, actually, maybe not SX, but 3Y. I think hopefully we should be able to ramp production faster than Shanghai, because we have learned a lot, and we've now been through we have basically veteran teams that have seen the 3Y ramp, the Y ramp especially, in multiple locations, and we're obviously sharing what we've learned, and so we don't want to get complacent or entitled, but this should be a faster ramp because we have learned more, and we've done a lot to simplify the production process of Model Y. That should lead us to a faster ramp in Texas and Berlin. Yeah, the body line for the structural pack is and if you go structural pack and front and rear castings, the body shop is body shop size drops by over 60% relative to the standard way of making a car. So I think we want to hold off on. We don't want to jump the gun on an exciting product announcement too much. So I think we'll aim to maybe do a product event for Robotaxi next year, and get into more detail. We are aiming for volume production in 2024. Well, Berlin is using the 2170 non-structural pack, so they're not constrained by 4680. They will transition to 4680 hopefully later this year, but current Berlin production does not require that. We also have, just as a risk mitigation, 2170 non-structural pack capability here at Giga Texas as well. But if things go according to plan, we will be in volume production with 4680 sometime, perhaps towards the end of the third quarter, and certainly in the fourth quarter. That's accurate. Yeah, if 4680 output is not a risk to achieving 1.5 million vehicles produced this year, but it would become a risk next year if we do not solve volume production by early 2023, but we're highly confident of doing so. To mention, kudos to the Fremont manufacturing team and our associates there, because we're achieving record output at Fremont. And so, I mean, it's like there's a saying in the military, it's like amateurs talk about tactics, professionals talk about logistics when it comes to war. We absolutely want to make EVs as affordable as possible. It's been very difficult with the, I think inflation is at like a 40 or 50-year high, and I think the official numbers actually understate the true magnitude of inflation. So, and that inflation appears to be likely to continue for at least the remainder of this year. Is what when we're talking to suppliers are under severe cost pressure. So, and in some cases we're seeing suppliers request 20 to 30% cost increases for parts from last year to the end of this year. So there's a lot of cost pressure there. That's why we raised our prices, because when things are this uncertain with respect to inflation, if it's high, then we've got orders that go out a year or more in some cases, then we have to anticipate those cost increases. But I think especially with the robotaxi and autonomy, I think we will end up providing consumers with by far the lowest cost per mile of transport that they've ever experienced. With the robotaxi, like maybe 5 to 10 times lower cost per mile, it's really quite substantial. But looking at some of our projections, it would appear that a robotaxi ride will cost less than a bus ticket, a subsidized bus ticket, or subsidized subway ticket. What's sort of keeping our costs down, at least in the short term, is that we have long-term contracts with suppliers, but those long-term contracts will obviously run out, and then we'll start to see potentially significant cost increases. But at a macro, sort of looking at the world as a whole and saying, okay, what does it take for Earth to transition to sustainable energy faster? It's fundamentally the fundamental limiting factor is the output of the cell, basically cell output. At what rate can lithium-ion cells increase the gigawatt hours per year? That is the fundamental limiting factor. In order and that will move as fast as the slowest, least lucky element of the whole supply chain. Currently, we see that as being a challenge with lithium. And it's not that, to be clear, it's not that there's a shortage of lithium ore in the world. Lithium is present almost everywhere. It's a very common element. However, you still need to dig up the ore, dig up basically the spodumene or whatever the clay with the lithium, and then you need to go through a whole series of refinement steps, and that's a lot of industrial equipment that's needed to refine lithium ore to lithium that can be used as lithium hydroxide or lithium carbonate in the battery cell. We think we're going to need to help the industry on this front, but the industry is growing fast, and I'd certainly encourage entrepreneurs out there who are looking for opportunities to get into the lithium business. The lithium margins right now are practically software margins. I mean, I think it's something. Literally, I think there's a. Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're seeing cases where the spot lithium price is 10 times higher than the cost of extraction. So not like we're talking 90% margins here. Can more people please get into the lithium business? Do you like minting money? Well, the lithium business is for you. Well, we hope we don't need to increase the pricing further. The current pricing is anticipating what we think is the probable growth in costs, and if that growth in cost does not materialize, we actually may slightly reduce prices. So we don't currently anticipate making significant price increases, but obviously we don't control the macroeconomic environment. If governments keep printing vast amounts of money, and if there are not significant increases in lithium extraction and refinement and the other raw materials, such that everyone's competing for a limited amount of raw materials, then obviously that will drive prices to high levels. If you have a crystal ball that can tell us what the future is going to be like, we'll adjust accordingly. But the current prices are the current prices are for a vehicle delivered in the future, like 6 to 12 months from now. So this is our best guess. If inflation keeps going crazy, $500 billion might be like $20 billion today. I don't know. So we'll see what $500 billion buys you in a decade, but it might be a lot less. I don't know if we'll. That seems like a lot of cash. I don't know. We'll try to do something useful with it. I mean, Jack, I don't know. It's a really high-class problem, that's for sure. I'm not sure if we've actually done a comparison of Cybertruck parts versus regular truck parts. I mean, Lars, kind of half of the car is one casting.
And even still with the Cybertruck and the doors, for example, we have an exoskeleton design where the door is ready to take, and it takes all the side loads from impact. So we really have we don't have the door reinforcements, we don't have the crash and shooting beams. So to your point, I haven't counted them because I don't often look back at old technologies to decide how well I'm doing. I check that once in a while, but in general, our architecture is always moving to reduce complexity, reduce parts, and reduce parts count. I would say, ignoring the battery cells, we're probably 20 to 30% less.
Oh, Nevada. Do we expect to expand? Yeah, we do expect to expand Giga Nevada. There's a lot of room for expansion there, and we do expect to increase output from Nevada. But the by far the biggest increase in output will be from Giga Texas. Yeah, if it were to continue, but there are some parts that are sourced in China that apply worldwide, and that would impact production elsewhere. But all indications are that we're out. Giga Shanghai is back in production. At fairly high levels already, and so are our suppliers. So we don't think this is going to be a big deal. There are no discussions currently underway for incremental compensation for me. Yeah, we want to do the right thing with respect to the whole system. And one side note is that we are seeing that having real time feedback for driving habits is actually resulting in Tesla owners driving the cars in a safer way. Because they can see they get real time feedback on, okay, this is affecting my insurance rate, or it isn't. And so when people can see a real time score and realize, oh, if I make the following changes in my driving habits, then I pay less in insurance. Then they have a very a real time feedback loop for safer driving, and an incentive to do so. So it is actually what we're seeing is it is causing people to drive their cars in a safer manner, which is also not good. I think it improves just overall macroeconomic efficiency. It's also a feedback loop for Tesla, because we see if there is a crash, large or small, we sort of see exactly what that cost, and now we think about how can we change the design of the car or the software in order to minimize the probability of that accident. Because most accidents are minor, but how do we have those accidents occur less frequently? And how do we make the repair associated with that accident super fast? Like aspirationally, it'd be like same day repair for a collision, which is just night and day difference compared to sometimes having to wait for a month while insurance claims are settled and figured out. And because Tesla is also doing collision repair. Yeah, and it's basically the customer experience is just vastly better. Because if there's an accident, there's no argument. We repair it immediately. And this is as compared to arguing with an insurance company and then a claims adjuster and then a collision repair center. And this can be a nightmare, basically. So we want to try to turn a nightmare into a dream with Tesla Insurance.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have this quarter. So thank you very much for all your great questions, and we'll speak to you again in 3 months.
Thank you.